Good morning, everyone. This is Chris Kurapati from Deming Lab. With me is my colleague Manish Mathur. Today's session, we are going to cover how to make quality everyone's responsibility using digital workflows. The agenda is roughly broken down into three parts. In the initial part, we will introduce ourselves. We will cover a little bit about quality management, how to make it cross-functional, and some of the challenges that we've observed industry organizations face. The approach using digital workflows for quality management is something that we're going to cover to close out the first part. In the second part, we will showcase a couple of case studies where digital workflows are used to address some very intricate quality management processes such as quality holds and deviation processes. You'll be able to see how customers are able to use digital workflows to provide significant improvement over traditional approaches for handling these workflows. In this third part, we will do a demo of the solution, showcase how workflow-driven approaches are designed to address some of the industry-related workflows, as well as why they are a significant improvement. And in the last 10 minutes, we will address all the questions and answers. It is likely that you are going to have some comments or questions while the session is going on. But since we are going to be covering all the questions towards the end, what we would like you to do is type in the question in the Q&A section of the Zoom webinar. So if you look at your Zoom bar, the fifth tab is Q&A. If you can please type in your question there, we will come back towards the end of the session and answer all the questions. In the event we are not able to answer the question in the time frame that is allotted, we will answer via email. Just so that you're aware, we will be sending this recording and the presentation after the recording is available to you, so that you'll get it via email. Our contact information will be in the presentation. So if you would like to reach out for any questions that you have, feel free to send us an email. Okay. With that, a little bit about Deming Lab. We are based out of California, Northern California, but we do have teams in different parts of the country. Our work mostly revolves around supply chain, quality, and product engineering, new product introductions with the industries where design and supply chains and quality are pretty critical. Most of us come from the industry and also have significant technology experience. Those two aspects are what informed us and helped us develop the approaches that you're going to see today. And one of our goals with this initiative, of course, is to make quality is everyone's responsibility, the famous saying from Deming, a reality in the organization and also in the supply chain. Okay, a little bit about us. Both of us have 20 plus years of experience in the industry and in technology. So we do know how things happen and how things work and what are some of the improvement opportunities that exist. Okay, and if you think about quality, there is on the left-hand side cost of achieving good quality, or at least the processes and techniques used to achieve good quality. And then on the right-hand side, you have poor quality, cost of poor quality. Ideally, the right-hand side should be very small or non-existent, but in real life, that is not the case, right? The case is the cost of poor quality is significantly higher than cost of achieving good quality. So the good news here is any investments that you make to achieve good quality will have outsized impact and should reduce your poor quality costs significantly, right? Given the leverage, the factor effect. And in many industries, if you look at it, the industries that we work in, cost of poor quality is substantial. so substantial that in financial statements in automotive industry, it is not uncommon to see warranty costs as a line item, right? And warranty costs are a very good indicator of it's the cost of poor quality. But not only that, if you go to other industries, there is significant effort involved and significant costs of poor quality. This is something in the order of 26 to 36 billion in medical device industry, and this is something that we'll cover later on. But the research that was done by Medical Device Innovation Council concluded that up to 1% of companies' revenues are, make up the total corrective and preventive action process, right? So the numbers are not small, the cost of poor quality. So there's every reason to make this number smaller and smaller, whatever it takes. And one of the things that we have here is, we looked at the publicly available information and, try to investigate, hey, what are the root causes of poor quality? And FDA, puts out this inspection database called 483s, and, they do provide a little bit of detail into what is causing the issue, right? Poor quality. And if you notice three things that come out. One is planning for quality, right? If it is food safety plans, etc., you need to really document and at least know what are all the sources of poor quality and issues are that you need to address. Second is following the procedure, right? Most companies have documents of procedures that you need to follow, and the number one, the inadequacy of the procedure and not following the procedure consistently are some of the main sources of poor quality, right? So we know that while quality is important and practiced, the failure to do so is what causes some of the issues in many organizations. And one of the things that we have learned from our engagement with customers is it is not uncommon to see or to feel like, hey, we are doing a lot of documentation, we are doing a lot of data collection, but is it necessarily improving quality, right? Are we acting on some of these things that we are documenting and collecting information on? The other thing that is very common is also, a lot of quality issues events fall through the cracks and forgotten. And if there's anything that you can see, the real mistake is the only one from which we learn nothing. If issues or events are falling through the cracks and forgotten, there is no learning, there is no resolution, and the issues will persist, right? And if you peel the onion one more time or a few more times, what we find here is that, why are people finding it hard to practice good quality, right? And the few of the main root causes, real root causes are, if a procedure is there and, you're expected to do it, and it involves several people, not just one person, right? Coordination is involved in that procedure. It is very, very hard to do it consistently. Okay, and somebody has to read it, somebody makes sure that it is done properly. So it is not easy to do even what is documented. And most processes, quality management processes, are cross-functional. And when you have multiple people, multiple functions involved in good quality processes, right, it is also very, very hard to orchestrate such things. And it is even harder, especially if systems are involved in that, like ERP systems, supply chain systems, inspection systems, customer complaint databases, service requests, things like that. And because of this coordination issues, there is no guarantee that your corrective preventive actions, anything that needs to be implemented in a timely manner will get done. And we'll see a couple of examples of that. And for many organizations that rely on supply chains to support the plan to deliver or design to deliver type of workflows, processes, involving external parties into your quality span or improving quality is just that much more harder. It's a factor of complexity increases by a factor. So these are some of the core reasons why we see practicing good quality becomes hard. While the intent is there, it is still hard, right? And then if you look at it, there is a lot of workflows, processes, information that is flowing with respect to quality. However, different departments, different functions are responsible for it. However, when it comes to quality performance, it seems like quality management department is the only one that is the paying finger points to, right? So that is not a good thing. And you have lots of different information systems, business systems where quality events get captured, unless the cross-functional teams know what is going on. There is no guarantee that that information flows through and issues are resolved in a timely manner, right? So that is another big issue that we see. And what we have come to a conclusion is, because we have done a lot of work in supply chain and workflow management systems, and we come to a conclusion that a cross-functional workflow approach might be a good strategy to take when you're trying to make quality is everyone's responsibility. And these are the few, I would say, aspects of it that make it a compelling approach. One is, if workflows, in general workflow systems, they can be started by anyone and by any system, right? It could be a customer starting it, to suppliers, or customer service and internal quality teams. Anyone should be able to initiate any quality-related workflow. The workflows also generally proactively involve the right people at the right time. We will see some examples. And importantly, these workflows need to be connected to your core business systems. That is where a lot of the quality events and issues get captured. And use that information to start off improvement and all the corrective CAPAs and every workflow that is related to quality. And where necessary, include the supply chain directly within the workflow so that it is not like a broken process. And one of the things that we've seen is there are lots of quality tools like risk assessments and FMEAs and fishbone diagrams, root cause analysis techniques that are done separately from a business process. And we should be able to use those tools as a part of doing some work, and that should be tracked and included within the workflow itself. We'll see some examples of that. And finally, of course, most organizations have over the years developed fine-tuned approaches for workflows that work for them, that are effective for them. So the workflow should mimic how it is being done well today, or it is being done so that you are complying and meeting customer and regulatory requirements. So flexibility and adaptability are also key. So these are some of the core facilities of a workflow engine that are central to making quality is everyone's responsibility a reality, right? So these are some of the things that we'll see today. And using that approach, of course, you can really cover quite a bit of ground in terms of making quality is everyone's responsibility, because you are, as a workflow, will be able to involve people from different functions, whether it's from customer service to, supply chain and everybody in between. You can use that approach to support many of the techniques and processes that are common to ensuring good quality. Okay. So what we'll do in the next part is look at a couple of examples on how a workflow-based approach is used to improve the situation at a couple of what I would consider to be fairly intricate processes. And in the first one, case study, we will look at a quality hold issue. And in the second one, we'll look at a deviation process. Okay. So this is a case study of a manufacturer, and these are fairly intricate, significant industrial machinery components. They are like into the tens of thousands to thousands to tens of thousands in terms of cost involved each product. Okay, so they need to act fast to move non-conforming product from various distribution nodes to support immediate actions. Okay, if there is something wrong, they need to act immediately, try to understand what the fixes are, and ensure that there is appropriately disposed of as an eventual step. Okay, and the distribution chain is quite extensive. It includes 100 plus stores, 10 plus distribution centers, and 3 manufacturing plants. So if you look at the process involved, when they find an issue, it could be a final issue with the final product, or it could be even an issue with a component, right? Something related to a motor or a wiring harness, things like that, right? How it is assembled. When these issues are found, one of the things that they need to do is immediately find all the affected serial numbers, especially if it is the finished product. Okay, or finished products that are affected by the component issue. Okay, and then they need to find all the serial numbers in the distribution network, right? Things have gone out of the factories. Some of them are still in the factory. Some of them already reached the stores. In the worst case, some of them already are at the customers, right? And let's assume in this span here, we are only going to do this with respect to the distribution network. The next step is to immediately move the product to the quality hold area and communicate all the initial actions to all these different locations where the product is found, right? The serial numbers are found. And once the initial actions are finished, depending upon the state of the product in all of these locations, they might decide, what is the correct action and the disposition. You can also fix while it is still in the DC or in the factory or even in the floor on the stores, right? So once that is done, the final disposition could be do a repair and put it back for sale, or put it back into the DC for distribution, right? Or sometimes, depending upon what it is, they may have to scrap it or send it back to factory for repairs. And then you need to verify all of it's done and document it. So this is a lot of work for people that are responsible for making sure that this happens properly. It is it is considered like one of the hardest things to do. So if you look at all the ones that I've highlighted here, the same workflow, how it is done, right? When the product is found, the teams investigate, find manufacturing records, find out all the serial numbers. And they do run a transaction in DC, in SAP to find out, where the product that needs to be addressed is in the distribution network. And another thing that you have to do in information technology systems is you have to run a transaction to say, hey, move this product away from the actual distribution, normal distribution channel to a hold area so that, things can be fixed. So these are few run transactions that they need to run. And so people do that. So there's a lot of coordination involved in this even in these steps, although this is primarily being done in ERP systems. And once that is finished is where the real work starts, right? So now people have to communicate to the individual, let's say there are 20 stores and 3 DCs and one manufacturing plant. You have to communicate to all of the people responsible in those areas to say, hey, let's fix, this is the initial action that you should do, move it out and put it in a place. And we will send you instructions on what to do once you finish that. Right? And you may have to even send some pictures from from the locations. Once that is done, the fixes are sent, and it may be done by customer service team or tech team, right? Field service teams. And then once it is finished, they will communicate the disposition action to the individual location, saying, yeah, go do it. All this time, this is all happening via email. There's a lot of, it's almost like a nonstop phone calls and emails. And still, there's no clear visibility of are things getting done properly, right? And because it's a regulated environment, you need to keep track of all of that emails and information and document and store it. So that is how it is done. Very, very hard and tedious work to do. What they've done is made this into a digital workflow. And there is a previous process that actually, the issue is reported by the site, and the investigation, it supports the investigation process. And through the investigation process, it finds out all the serial numbers, okay? So the quality hold starts with the person that wants to initiate the hold, uploading the serial numbers. The workflow calls SAP, and we'll see some examples of that. And when we talk about integration, quality workflow integration, these workflows need to be able to not only involve people, but also talk to external systems. So here in this case, it calls SAP and says, hey, move these serial numbers into quality hold area. That may involve SAP doing it, but also in some cases, if you have another WMS system, warehouse management system, you may also have to give notes to or call the WMS system and say, hey, do this, move from one bin to another. Okay, so that is also the workflow does both of those. And it finds out, hey, which are the plants and the stores and the DCs that are where this serial numbers are located. I'll send the email to those relevant people saying this is the initial action that they should take. Okay, and once the people at those locations get the email, they complete that and communicate, hey, we've finished the initial action. Once the initial action is done through this workflow, the quality team sends out what is the appropriate fix and the disposition that the individual location should do. And they keep track of this one-to-one relationship with these individual locations through this workflow. And once that is finished, the 20 plus locations where the product is, each of them finish that fixes and the disposition actions. And within the workflow, they'll indicate, yes, we finished it. And all of that, while this is happening, the workflow keeps track of all the actions, the information, the pictures that are shared, the instructions that are shared, and the verification pictures that the location send back. All of that becomes a verification information, and all of the documents are together, right, within the workflow. So that's how this is designed within the system. So if you look at this, the quality team initiates the hold, right, and sends out includes the serial numbers from the previous process and says, the initial actions is just move that away from the store areas and the normal storage areas to the quality hold areas, right? That's it. And they'll send it out. They'll initiate the workflow. From then on, the workflow takes over and finds out, hey, this is where all the items are located. These are the different plants, and this, that includes stores as well, and the current storage locations, right? And gets all the and as part of this process, it also sends SAP and WMS saying, move the product, these serial numbers from this place to the quality hold area, right? And the underlying system, the ERP and WMS systems actually do it. Once that is done, this is number one, right? Because you need to do this very, very quickly, and the warehouse management systems can actually take care of the actual physical moves. So once that is done, it finds out, the workflow looks at all the locations and says, these are 4 stores, the 20 stores and 2 plants, and 2 DCs and 1 plant. Okay, let me start communicating to those locations through the workflow. The quality management team is communicating. And it's like a one-to-one relationship now with each of those locations. And then, you're sending the initial action response. Once the individual locations say, hey, I've completed it, you'll send disposition actions. It could be that, hey, field tech is actually visiting the location to fix it, and they'll work on it, and they'll determine the disposition actions and let you know, right? So it's a one-to-one actions that are happening between the quality management team and the individual locations. And workflow uses this screen. Each of them, each of the locations and the quality management use this workflow page to communicate and to share information, pictures, etc., and all of the actions that are happening at the location, and keep track of it. So all of that becomes a complete, very, very smooth coordination and one-to-one communication possible within the workflow, and keeping track of all of the actions getting done. So as a quality management team now, what used to be a very, very, very problematic steps here are all being assisted by the workflow, right? So as a quality management team, you're just proactively working and monitoring the situation, and where there is an exception, working with the individual location to fix the issue, right? The job is a lot easier now, and you are primarily focused on getting things done as opposed to running around making phone calls and sending emails and essentially tracking down people and their actions. So it's it's a dramatic improvement from what the customers have seen, right? The second case study is about a deviation. And this is from a high-tech manufacturer where they use a deviation process to handle non-standard but acceptable changes. Okay, so these changes, if you've followed the last 2-3 years of supply chain issues, there are so many issues in the supply chain that many high-tech manufacturers and even automotive and other areas had to do lots of deviations, part substitutions, changes to testing regime because of that. So hundreds of deviations a month. And to support the customer demand, you need to do this deviation process very, very quickly, fast. And the deviation process does involve quite a few functional areas within the organization. In some cases, even get a customer approval before this deviation is done, right? So manufacturing, testing, engineering, they should allow such deviations, right? And all of that is very, very, again, cross-functional, not done in one place, multiple places, and needs to be done fast. So what they've done is to, again, design this as a digital workflow and connect all the work parties together. And we'll see those examples in the upcoming demo. So this workflow involves all the people that are involved, and based upon the type of workflow, this deviation category, the workflow takes on different paths. Like, for example, right? So when you start a deviation, it always goes to document control. But depending upon the type of category of deviation, if it is qualifying new parts, like, you're doing substitutions, you need to get engineering approval. Sometimes you need to get customer approval, and then you notify. You may have to do some testing changes, some process changes, and then finish the deviation, right? The manufacturing is, everyone is responding accordingly based on this change. On the other hand, if it is just a labeling change, there is nothing to be done, other than to notify people and move on, finish the deviation. Same thing with direct ship to customer. So there is a company which does not do direct ship to customer, but in some situations do support direct ship to customer. That's a deviation from normal process, right? That is a very simple deviation, so they don't need to do, there's not much due diligence other than notifying the customer, yes, we are shipping you directly. So when you design a workflow like this, you have this flexibility to take on a path that really adapts to the situation and the scenario that needs to be supported. Okay. So there are lots of other examples that we have, but we've chosen these two because of the intricate nature of the quality management workflows that you need to support, how different functions are involved in it, and how do you pull them all together and make it run faster, better, and more accurately. Okay. So with that, what we are going to do in the next part is do a demonstration of the solution itself. And during this demonstration, we'll cover a number of aspects of it, which is, how do you take a traditional process, we can call it SOP, for example, and turn it into a digital workflow. What does that entail? And how you can use connected workflows to close the loop. Okay, so that's another thing. And then, one of the things that we've heard when people talk of designing quality, right? There are many techniques for designing quality, from requirements to risk assessments to FMEA and so on. How can it be more than just a documentation exercise? There is a tendency to make it, we'll have everything covered. We'll have it in an Excel sheet or even a software solution, but so does documenting mean, is it getting done? Right? You need to think of more than that. We'll look at a little bit of, there are lots of quality issues and events that are visible and, that you need to take care of. Not everything is important, but you need to know, right? So that you can take appropriate action depending upon the severity and the probability of happening, right? Then we'll also look at how supply chain can be involved in the quality workflows. So for this demo, what we have done is taken a case study of medical device industry, what they've spent some time about how do we improve the corrective preventive action process for the whole industry. And the reason being, this is a common observation, looks like, because this is done by the industry consortium itself, is our staff dreads being assigned a CAPA. It is burdensome and it is seen as a punishment instead of an improvement opportunity. I mean, that's very unfortunate. Our CAPA system is bloated and is focused on creating documents instead of resolving issues. And something that we also observed earlier is that a CAPA process in medical device industry costs 1% of companies' revenues. And that's a lot of money. And more importantly, it is, doesn't seem very fun to do, right? Or even nice. So what we have done is taken up the proposed risk-based improvement framework. So the industry consortium that did the case study said, hey, we should move in the direction of having a risk-based CAPA process where we can categorize them as external CAPA, where issues are outside of the organizational control, and an internal CAPA, where the issue, everything to be addressed is within the organizational control. And depending upon what the risk is, we can actually use something like a fast track CAPA, which is much less burdensome and can be done faster and more effectively. Okay. And the goal is to make it effective, efficient, and user-friendly, with some understanding that all issues are not created equal, can be appropriately handled quickly and compliantly, and use some interconnected workflows to triage issues and improvement opportunities. Okay, so these are some of the design goals. What we have done is put together a scenario where a quality issue assessment results in either an external CAPA or a fast track CAPA. And if it's an external CAPA, of course, it's a lot more elaborate. You need to ensure that the action implementations are done, SOP changes are actually being handled as part of the CAPA itself. And there are many other tasks that are done, including risk assessment and root cause analysis and things like that. Okay, so this is our demo scenario. And I'm going to start off with, so here I am in the browser. This is the application as it relates to an organization using this. So you see a lot of different workflows and also tools, quality tools, right? Like core quality tools in automotive, and different techniques and tools that are used across many industries, risk assessments, and DV, PNR, verification plans, right? So, if you go down to manufacturing, there's a process flow, process FMEA, control plans. So lots of tools and workflows that are available. One of the things that you need to keep in mind is that, you can design your own. There are some things that we provide out of the box, but more often than not, many organizations just take their QMS, I would say, framework and design it directly here, okay, to fit their need and the way things are done. So what we're going to do is start off with a quality issue. So if you look at it, we have a couple of, let me log back here, quality issues here. So one is, quality issue says fast track CAPA, quality issue is external CAPA, right? So let me look at the fast track CAPA that actually happened here. So if you notice, any workflow is designed to be, this is something that's already been finished, is designed to fit the need, how it should be done within your organization. So there is a workflow logic path that is followed, and it can be, depending upon one scenario, depending upon the criteria, it can take different paths. That is number one. So the workflow is designed, and you can design this to fit your need. Most of our customers actually design it to fit their need, the way things are done today, to minimize change. The second thing is a workflow. Once you have all of these different workflows, they are done by different roles. So you would define all the cross-functional roles that are involved in this workflow, from R&D to quality board, the different quality analysts, different roles that play a part. Okay, and then you have people that playing that role, and this can be something that you can set up ahead of time, or you can determine based upon the individual quality issue, right? Who is the right person to be the quality analyst? Who is the right person to represent R&D, right? Who is the right person to represent quality board? So these three make up what we call a cross-functional workflow. The workflow definition, the roles that are involved that perform those activities, workflow activities, and the actual people that do it. Okay. So once this is done, this is a workflow that has already been done. And if you notice patient alarm volume is too high, that's how the issue came. And I'll quickly take you through one example how it goes through. And PB600, the customer is affected. The indication from the customer complaint is that there's no harm occurred. Severity is minor. This is an assessment that was done internally. And then it is actually decided that the CAPA type action to be followed is communicate. Training is the one that we do. So, and we will do using a fast track CAPA, right? Priority is low. And based on that, it actually created a fast track CAPA here. If you look at this workflow, it has its own workflow steps, right? It's investigation approval, corrective action recommendation, corrective action approval. Now the implementation is actually going on. And here, you have different, some of the information from the quality issue is transferred over here, but there's more assessment that is done here. They actually find out root causes, occurrence root cause. There's no need for root cause analysis. There's only one CAPA action, and there's only one document and SOP update that needed to be done. Okay, that's it. This is more of a simple fast track CAPA. It can be done in a few days and it's finished. Right, so if you look at it, we started off with this quality issue and went into CAPA. And if you look at the, there's a graphical way of looking at it. Quality issue led to a fast track CAPA. So everybody is involved. It is triaged here and determination is done for the next step as a CAPA and finished here. Right? Quick. The second one that we're going to look at, this quality issue, is the external CAPA. Right? Here, the issue is a little bit more serious. So pressure line in some cases is getting kinked or obstructed. Okay, same product. The customer is affected. Harm occur, yes. In some of the risk assessment, the severities came out to be critical. We'll look at that. And, while the occurrence probability is remote, risk is high. And what the recommendation here from an action is design change, as well as we should use the external CAPA process. Okay, and the priority is high. So if you look at this one, it actually created an external CAPA process. Let's open that. And if you look at this graph here, this is just significantly more involved, right? There is a risk assessment that needs to be done. There's a Y analysis, investigation approval. There's an RCA, there's countermeasure identification, there's implementation, document process, customer approval, effectiveness checks, and notification. So we notice the comparison between fast track CAPA and external CAPA is quite significant. This is a lot more involved, and because it does, the risk is very high, right? The customer is getting affected, and the severity is also pretty high. So that's the reason why we do it. And when people are handling this, there's an actual team involved in this one. There's assessment done. There is like non-detection. Why did it not? So there's a significantly more information. There's actually if you notice, there is a root cause analysis that was done with using fishbone diagrams, right? Machine the different items that are involved. There are 4 CAPA actions. Okay, and normally when you do CAPA, you say, hey, we find out actions. How do you make sure that the actions are actually getting done? Okay, you've documented the actions. You've actually, responsible person is engineering, and pressure supplier quality engineer here. We got some prevention scores, but importantly, how do you know it is getting done? So this is where this whole concept of connected workflows come into play, which is the way this is done is using an engineering change request, right? So here we initiated an engineering change request directly from the action. And there is an actual engineering change request process that is going on. And here we know we can keep track of all the actions. This is actually another workflow that happens in the background. And when it is finished, this action is completed. Same thing for supplier corrective action, right? If I open it, it's not created yet, but it is going to initiate a supplier corrective action here. And same thing for document and SOP changes, right? There will be a workflow that is created for risk assessment changes and DFMEA updates. So when you have such an approach, you will see that this already has the ECR already created, quality issue, right? You have a full picture of what happened within your CAPA and all the actions and the workflows related to those actions. Full picture, right? Nothing is left to chance. And everyone has full visibility and everyone knows what is happening and how to work together. The coordination is something orchestrated by the workflow engine. People don't have to struggle anymore. So that's how it is. And so we've just noticed that supply chain can also be part of these workflows. So I'm going to log in as a supplier because suppliers can also be involved in these workflows. Okay, so here I'm logging in as a supplier. And suppliers also, depending upon the level of their involvement, they may be able to participate in and work with you on several items, right? So here in this case, it's a supplier corrective action. There are actually a couple of actions that the supplier is involved, and anything that they are involved in, they are going to be doing it. It's assigned to their task, right? So suppliers also are active participants. And when we talk about suppliers, we need to discuss topic about, where do they come from, right? Where are they involved, right? So we keep track of suppliers, primarily the suppliers that are working with you on raw materials, contract manufacturers and systems integrators. They are directly involved in your production process, production components. So this is a type of information that we do work with, and that is enabled through our integration. So we talked about the workflow engine connected to different systems. So if you notice here, this workflow engine is connected to SAP and engineering systems, Teamcenter, because a lot of the part information and the supply chain information comes from these systems. And quality, especially core quality, is very involved, included as part of the core product NPI and supply chain development, right? So it is essential that we be able to connect, and we use a number of APIs to connect to those systems and get relevant information with respect to materials, POs, vendors, RMAs, and so on. Everything is something that we can, and it works very, very seamlessly because within the workflow. If I take this first example of, I'm going to show you a first inspection report. A first inspection report is something your suppliers send, right? And you need to evaluate the first article inspection report, and only upon approval release the PO. Now, what does releasing PO means? Releasing PO means you need to call SAP and say, hey, this PO number should be now opened up, unblocked, so that people can, the suppliers can ship products and we can receive them. And these types of integration to SAP or other ERP systems or engineering systems, supply chain systems, can happen seamlessly as part of the workflow. So at this step, it directly calls SAP and says, release the PO. Done. And just to give you a picture of when we talk about no quality issue left behind, there are a lot of different solutions. Quality events are captured in your manufacturing systems, quality systems, inspection reports, customer quality, for example, customer reviews and RMAs and field failure reports and warranties, right? All of that have very, very rich information about quality and failure and issues that people complain about. So here is an example of, I'm going to re-log in, might have logged out. Example of customer quality. So we have customer reviews, right? There are lots of places where your company may be getting customer reviews, especially if you're online, you'll find it. So if you look at this, we've already captured all of that. So there is nothing left behind. We've looked at all the 10,000 plus customer reviews and said, oh, these are problem. 1-star reviews are 1-star and 2-star reviews are something that you definitely need to pay attention to, because that has this significant impact on, and it could be the same thing. RMAs, there are product defects that you need to address within RMAs. If you just leave the information as it is, it can be easily forgotten and nobody knows why things are the way they are, right? So here we proactively capture all of this and start to look at what are the issues that we have, right? So if you look at this thing, we're looking at these two work for 2 weeks, lots of 1-star ratings, do not buy. And depending upon the 1-star rating, these are actually put into workflows directly, right? So we have this customer review assessment workflow. If you look at this workflow, something that's already happened, it said, hey, there is a 1-star customer review. It came from Amazon. And this is the detail here, right? Works great when first fan started. Came saying, I would tolerate, didn't suck the water in. Lots of information that supremely useful if you're a quality management or as an organization, engineering, right? I would not recommend. This can actually be quite an issue, especially because people read reviews and make purchasing decisions. And the assessment here is this 1-star rating serious impact sales as well as brand equity. We need to respond to the user as well as communicate on comment board about our initiative, replace free of cost, as well as improvements in the product to prevent this from happening. And guess what? There was a quality issue that was created, and now people are going to start to put corrective actions and risks and everything that follows, right? So here you're not leaving anything to a chance. So you can use all of the information that is in customer service systems, or supply chain systems, and what we call manufacturing quality inspections and engineering, to really go after and make sure that what we say is no quality event left behind. Okay. So I'm going to stop the session here because we can start to take in questions. But if you look at it, we've covered quite a bit of ground, and really use this concept of workflows to address a lot of challenges that organizations face in terms of improving quality. Okay. With that, let me look at the Q&A tab here. There's a question, does this mean that everyone has a copy of the software? If it is, so the software itself, because it's a workflow engine, it's an online, not online, you deploy it so that everybody can participate and act as actors using the browser. So let me give you an example here. So if someone starts a new quality issue, and of course, this can be started by anyone, and it says, hey, it's a customer related complaint. Background is product issues, overheating, right? And so we'll call it Avalon Bay again. Then say, yes, customer is affected. Did harm occur? No real harm, but the customer satisfaction is a problem here, right? So this is how you submit it. Can come from customers or it can be initiated by other systems. And now the workflow step has taken and said, it sent it to the quality engineer and said, can you please do the assessment? Okay, so the quality engineer, when he comes in, I'll show you the email that he gets. So when we say correct person gets involved at the right time, so I just got this quality, as a quality engineer, I just got that email saying, hey, this is sent to you by zFlow admin to perform quality workflow activity assessment for this workflow. So when they click here, they directly places them into the screen and saying, can you do the issue? Right? It is, as a quality engineer, you can use variety of qualitative approaches to come at what the risk is, assessment is. Initial risk, I'll say medium. It seems to happen, not occasionally, but sometimes. And severity is, it is not catastrophic, but it is serious enough that because we need to, and is this a potential user error? No, right? And investigation is actually required. So this is the assessment that I will do and then say, yes, go ahead. I completed my assessment. And now the quality engineer said, you can also determine the follow-on action. You'll get another email or you can continue on and say, hey, let's do a fast track. We may have to do a design change here, but immediate communicate to customer and replace. Okay, and then send. So this workflow actually proactively involves people, and and that's how people are coming together and working together using this approach of not only step by step, but in some cases parallel, and the take the path. So that's how it happens. Okay. So no need. There's only one piece of software, but people are coming in and out as part of this workflow. You can think of this as like a replacement for your email, right? But it does a lot more than that, of course. But yes, is there an extra cost for each license? There is no such thing as license. You just buy it for a number of people. Because it's a workflow engine, sometimes there are anonymous logins that are also allowed. External people are allowed, so we make it more in line with, depending upon how much usage you have, you can size your system, and we can discuss more about that. Is there a customer report format to present here? How does 8D or Kappa look like? Yes, there are different types of techniques that can be used. You can mix and match. For example, 8D. If you look at this 8D example, it can be a lot more. Both, what should be the approach and what are the elements of 8D you can determine. 8D is a very standard approach, right? And then you can also determine the workflow. How do you want to follow through on that 8D project? So 8D, if you look at some of the examples here, you can also customize to how you may already have something designed, right? So this is something that one of the examples where they do fishbone. So if you look at this workflow, it is very specific to how an organization designed their corrective action process and the elements of the corrective action. That includes root cause, using 5 whys. So if I open actually the 5 why here, it actually shows the 5 why itself, and the different countermeasures. So you can fit it really configure it to fit the way you are either currently doing or the way you'd want it to be done. Is there an extra cost for each login? Yeah, like it's told you, we don't keep track of users, but you really need to size the system based upon, if you're expecting 100 users, 200 users. Most of our systems have almost, several hundreds to, in some cases, thousands of people, because everybody is involved in these workflows, right? Sometimes in the example that we were showing for the quality hold, that has up to 700 people that might be impacted. So they have, they just buy, okay, we need to be able to support 1,000 people, so we'll just size the system accordingly. And we can answer that, how it is done. Yeah, but it is not we don't keep track of individual logins. It's mostly sizing based on the amount of expected usage. And you can, of course, go up and down in terms of how much to, if the usage is less, you can size it down and you'll be charged accordingly. Okay. And so there was one question is how does updates, I think it's Manish has already answered that, make it back into the workflow. When people in the distribution center do the containment, they do within the workflow come back and indicate, yes, it has been done. And this is sometimes they send a picture of verification, and it is part of the workflow then, that picture and the completion, I would say, record by the actual person at that DC, downstream distribution center. So it's all tracked. If there are no other questions, we are at the top of the hour. There is one more. Is there an internal audit workflow? Yes, we do actually have internal audits. There is a checklist process, as well as I would say there is you can see some of the supplier audits. These are, depending upon the type of audit, you can either set it up for internal audits. It is actually fairly common for, for preparing an audit to do an internal audit using this software. And it gives an audit report and how it should be, what are the actions, audit actions, etc. Okay. And those audit actions can be sub workflows too. And so we are at the top of the hour. Now that the session is over, what we will do as a follow-on is, once the recording is available, we will send it out along with the presentation. And we'll pretty much answered most of the questions here. But if you have any questions, feel free to send us an email, and we can answer that. In addition, we would like to, if this is something that you find compelling, we would like to offer you an approach where you can try this out. There are a couple of approaches. Free trial is something that where, you can pretty much, there are lots of examples that we put, you can use any of these to test it out. Free pilot is a little bit different, is, where we actually, if you have a very specific workflow that you find problematic within your organization, that you want to design and see how it can be supported using the workflow engine, we can actually help you support that process. Both of them are, these are very fast. The workflow engine is very accessible, and you can also design your own if you want, but something that we can support in a matter of few days or even hours in some cases, you will have something to use and test. Okay, if you would like to take advantage, send us a note and we will work with you on one-on-one basis to support the test drive or free pilot. Okay, so with that, we will close the session. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for joining this. Taking 1 hour out of very valuable Thursday morning, and we appreciate that. And please keep a lookout for an email that will have the recording as well as the presentation. And if you can, respond back to the email if you have any questions or would like to pursue a test drive or free pilot. Okay, thank you again. Thank you very much.